and very powerful presentation, Tyrus, bringing in Gloria and some of the other experts on the ground. One of the guys actually said that if you're denying it's a crisis on the border, not only are you being dishonest, you're being dishonest with malice.
Yeah, malice is always a great word when it's used properly, but there's something about feet on the ground. Yeah. People are actually living in the moment, and I think what was starting to go kind of south, I think the president was kind of getting at a loss for words there when he brought Gloria in. Phenomenal job, Gloria, out there, but people can feel that, they understand that, and you take the politics out and you go with the facts and what's going on there. That was bipartisan, straight up, this is how it is, this is how we're dealing with it, and that's what the American people need to see. So that was great information, and if you had issues, if you were just listening to the stuff going on in Washington, after seeing that interview, you would start thinking, you know what, maybe there's something going on that's not just hyperbole and division. So that was a wonderful interview. Your PR blood was boiling down.
I was pumping.
And there was great hats.
Yeah, always more authoritative
hats.
When you have a hat like that.
Yeah, I mean, the guy, you know what, I'm learning a lot. This was a tremendous gift.
I might have to start wearing a hat like that. People really listen when you wear a hat like that. Yeah, it could mess up the hair.
The hair.
All right, Juan, you heard from the experts on the ground, 30-foot fence, assaults down, rock throwing down 65%. When deployed strategically, it's very, very effective.
Yeah, and thank you, President Obama. Because guess what? That section of wall was paid for back in 2009 as a repair job by, guess who? President Obama.
No, actually, we paid for it.
No, I'm just saying, because right now, you listen to this bluster and bluff coming from Trump, and you say, oh, is Trump putting up that wall? Trump hasn't built any wall. This is a repair job that was funded by President Obama. Look, I think Dana has a point. It's always good to get out of Washington.
Let me hear more about the point.
I'll tell you, because it's really important for him to get out because he's had a tough week. He's being sued by 20 states, including California, over his emergency declaration.
Yep.
They're asking him for his tax returns, and he's struggling with that one. Just today, he just withdrew the nomination of his ICE director, the guy he had up for that job. Nobody is clear on it except thinking that Stephen Miller, who's behind this failed immigration policy, didn't like the guy. Of course, the Senate and the House have gone after his spending.
He's not having a bad week. So let me just get this straight. You said since it's Obama's wall, you like it.
No. No, what I said was, no, because you guys focused on the idea that you had security people there saying, before this wall was here, we had a problem. Well, guess what? That's before the wall was there years ago.
So you're saying walls work?
Obama.
Is that what you're saying?
The walls
work when Obama
we don't need a sea to shining sea wall except in your imagination.
No, I agree. We don't need it all the way, but you need it strategically, right?
Yes, we do. That right there was the real-world application of everything that is going on that crosses borders. The crisis is not limited to, nor does it begin at our southern border. One of those gentlemen at the end mentioned that $50 billion flows only northward over and across ports of entry. Almost $30 billion is profit for the cartels in the drug industry. Since 2006, Mexico has been fighting militarily a kingpin strategy against all of their drug wars locally. What do we think that we're seeing? It's all of the effects from that. So it's not about simply human immigration crossing the southern border. It's because the push factors coming south of the borders are so strong, so complicated, and so now long-term invested that that's what we're dealing with. So I love that the president also brought in the broader conversation of including Mexico in that, because it's about time for some diplomacy so that we can either help or stop it.
Yeah, important to hear the grisly reality of the drug war, talking about they find 100 bodies a year just buried in the desert.
Well, that's why I think that, so the president, I would keep him out on the road at least once a week, because when you're in the Roosevelt room or the cabinet room and you bring the cameras in, or let's just say that maybe he's just headed into Mar-a-Lago on Fridays and he talks to the cameras on his way out to the helicopter, it looks repetitive.
Yeah.
You have to change the scene in order to change the storyline. I also think that every day this week he's had a different position on Mexico. There was going to be closing the border, then they're not closing the border. Then we're thinking about tariffs, but maybe not for a year. But maybe, now today he is praising the Mexican president, which maybe that actually works in terms of getting the Mexican president to do more. But I would do this. We all know that the answer to all of these problems resides in Congress.
Right.
So I would focus like a laser beam on Congress, but make them follow you. Get out there, get on the border, or wherever, if you talk about health care, wherever it's going to be, don't do it from the Roosevelt Room, because it is not effective.
Now, do you think this is going to be a game changer, like Dana said, to get out on the road, change the optics, and force maybe one of these Democrat congressmen or senators to go visit and hear from the experts?
Again, I'll go back to Gloria. Phenomenal job. It changed the conversation.
Yep.
It went from Juan's expression was like, here we go again, to, you know what is she talking about? Well, it's interesting. And that's important, what we need. And here's the thing about the flip-flopping of the story every day. I'm going to get his back a little bit on this one, because I think you're saying, and this I would say this Jesse Waters' hair is off to the right and I don't like it. Sir, it's actually off to the left. Maybe we should change it. The next day, it's actually off to the left. So he's listening to his people, where he's often criticized for not. He'll say something and be like, actually, Mr. President, if we close the border, our economy is going to be in big trouble. So the next day, like, okay, you got a year. So I'm actually okay with that, because he's known for going off the cuff. He's known for getting a little emotional and saying, well, guess what, we're going to do this. And he's listening to his experts. So let's not be.
My point on that is that it takes the focus off of Congress.
Yeah. Well, that's what they want. Because no one at this table's got a Congress T-shirt.
I wonder who politicized this issue in the first place. I think it's
Obama.
Donald Trump, who said Mexico was going to pay for this. But let me just stop for a second. Forget that for a second. Remember, spending on a wall does nothing to stop the infusion of families, and especially families with children. We're not talking about an invasion. We're not talking about we're talking about most of the people coming right now, families with children. A wall does nothing to do that. It does nothing in terms of the added wall, in terms of the detention facilities that are needed to accommodate these people at this moment. That's the crisis, Jesse. That's the real crisis.
The families are pawns of the cartels. Yeah. That is just a small portion of that.
Well, I'm just saying, remember,
smuggling industry.
Emily, this is not mostly Mexicans. These are people coming from Central America. There are different rules in terms of asylum for the Mexicans.
Yes, so that's why I would focus on Congress and make them fix that part.
Well, I think Democrats want to do something about the facilities, the detention facilities, the judges,
to accommodate it. But if they do something about the asylum laws, they won't have to do those.
But Trump has done so much to politicize it that he has us stuck.
President Trump at the southern border in Calexico, California, meeting there with Border Patrol agents, border sheriffs, visiting the border wall, and pledging hundreds more miles of wall to be built in the near future.
Under construction, we had a lot of things happening, and we expect to have close to 400 miles done within about 2 years from now. That's a lot. 400 miles will cover most of it.
The president's threat to shut down the border has Mexico and its government listening. President Trump saying since he made that threat, Mexico is now doing more than they've done in decades.
25. Mexico, of the last 4 days, has done more than they've ever done. We were talking about that before, Kevin. They're apprehending people now by the thousands and bringing them back to their countries, bringing them back to where they came from. And I think you see that. That's at their southern border. And that's a big difference. They've never done that before. I mean, when I say never done, I mean like in 30 years they've never done it like they're doing it right now.
The president's boundless energy continues after his trip to the border. Tonight he's attending a fundraiser in Los Angeles. There he will add to his campaign's 2020 war chest. The campaign ended 2018, raising more than $129 million. Our first guest tonight with the president at the California-Mexico border today to take up a roundtable discussion on the border crisis. Joining us tonight, President of the National Border Patrol Council, Brandon Judd. Brandon, good to have you with us.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
Brandon, let's start with your impression of the wall and your sense of the president's view of it all.
Well, the first thing that he did was when he declared the national security and he showed Congress that he's not going to take no for an answer. He showed the American public that he's going to secure the funds that are necessary to build the walls in the strategic locations to physically keep people out. In an effort to end the catch and release, which is exactly what we need to do.
You know, Brandon, I could not actually, that border was never close, that wall was never close enough to really get a sense of it. It's 30 feet tall, right?
Yep. Yes, it's going to be, yes.
And your sense of its ability to repel would-be illegal immigrants.
Oh, it's already proven. It's already proven that works. I mean, all you have to do is look at the the locations where we have built those physical barriers and how illegal immigration has dropped exponentially, that's the proof that you need. The Democrats, they know it. They know that it works. They know that will help secure the border. They're just playing politics. We live in a political world, and they're playing it that way.
Playing it that way, and it is for them no game. They mean to obstruct this president at every turn, and by so I think we have to, in all honesty and just being comprehensive, as they like to say when talking about immigration, include the rhinos who blocked the president throughout 2 years of Republican control in the Congress. They still persist.
Absolutely. It's not just the Democrats. I mean, it's of course, it's mostly the Democrats, but it's not just the Democrats. The rhinos exist as well. But President Trump has proven that he's able to get around them. I mean, we don't just need laws in order to end the catch and release. We need, like what you said before, we need ingenuity. We need the right ideas. And frankly, I think the right ideas are coming because this administration has been overturning every single rock, looking at all of the laws, and digging for the responses that we need to end the catch and release program. And frankly, I think it's coming.
Well, you've proposed that Border Patrol agents should be trained at the senior patrol agent level to be also asylum officers with limited authority to conduct credible fear interviews with with asylum seekers. Is it enough to cut down the, a 2 to 5 year backlog on illegal border crossers who are claiming asylum?
Absolutely. If you look at the way the laws are structured, once that credible fear interview is done, if a person fails that credible fear interview, they must see an immigration judge within 10 days. That's the regulations that exist. Once they see an immigration judge, if that person does not have a credible fear claim, and we know that 90% of people that ask for asylum, once they go before an immigration judge, determine that they don't have an asylum case, we know that will end up being the catalyst that gets people deported back. And once they're deported, these people will stop coming. It's the catch and release that is the magnet that draws people here to violate our immigration laws.
Yeah. The magnitude of this problem is frankly unimaginable now. I mentioned the backlog of asylum seekers. We have 100,000 a month being apprehended. Illegal immigrants, which means, according to the traditional ratio of 3 to 1, that means we're talking about 400,000 a month in this country. This is just, and the catch and release is now, it seems, the primary response of the Border Patrol. How do we fix it?
Again, that's what we need to do. We need to train our agents to become asylum limited authority with asylum officer responsibilities. That's going to be the way that we end this problem. It will end along with the border walls, along with the expansion of the migrant protection protocols, or better named, Remain in Mexico. When you put all of those things together, again, cut Congress out of the process. You know that Congress isn't going to act. And like I said today, if they're not going to be part of the solution, they need to get out of the way and let this administration work to end this problem. And the administration is working to do that, and frankly, I think we're going to get there.
And why did it take so long to implement the so-called Remain in Mexico program? The president was talking about it 2 months ago. DHS apparently didn't react.
Well, I'm not going to defend DHS. You know darn good and well that I'm not going to do that. But Remain in Mexico, you have to have the Mexican government's cooperation. And that's part of the reason that the president threatened to close the border. If we're not going to get Mexico's cooperation, he's willing to take economic actions against Mexico. And we've seen exactly what happened when he threatened to take those economic actions. Now all of a sudden, the Mexican government is doing more, and frankly, I believe that they're also going to expand the Remain in Mexico protocols to allow us to put more people in Mexico pending their asylum claim.
And the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of illegal immigrants in this country, are they going to be allowed to remain in place, or are they going to be deported, do you think?
So the first thing that we have to do is we have to address the current issue of those people that are coming up to our border. Once we get that under control, and we will get that under control, then you can start looking at the interior of the United States and going after that. The problem is if we go after the interior first, then you just continue to have more people coming in, and they just backfill those people that you go after. If you go after the border first, that's why the border is key. Go after the border first, secure that end, and then you can start working towards the interior.
Brendan Judd, we thank you for being with us. Appreciate it very much.